At Chicago's most exclusive restaurant, no one dares serve Julian Vale until Ariel Benton, a fearless new waitress, looks him in the eye and says no. What follows changes them both forever. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The staff of Lusso, Chicago's most exclusive five-star restaurant, gathered for their Friday afternoon meeting. The dining room gleamed with polished silver and crystal glasses that caught the light from the grand chandeliers overhead. "Remember, everyone," said Marcus, the restaurant manager, his voice tight with stress. "Mr. Vale arrives at exactly 7:30. Table 7. Everything must be perfect." The servers exchanged nervous glances. No one wanted table 7 on Fridays. "Who's taking him tonight?" asked Peter, a waiter who'd been there for 5 years. Marcus sighed heavily. "We need a volunteer." The room fell silent. No one raised their hand. "He made Sophia cry last week," someone whispered, "and got David fired the week before that," added another. Marcus rubbed his temples. "Look, I know Julian Vale is difficult, but he's also one of our biggest customers. His tips are generous." "His tips feel like hush money," Peter muttered. At that moment, the back door opened, and a young woman walked in. She was black, full-figured, with braids pulled into a high bun. She carried herself with unmistakable confidence. "Sorry I'm late," she said. "The bus was delayed." Marcus waved her over. "Everyone, this is Ariel Benton, our newest team member. She comes with excellent references." What Marcus didn't mention was that none of those references were from fine dining establishments. Ariel had worked at diners, cafes, and family restaurants, places where you called customers honey and memorized their kids' names. "Welcome to Lusso," Marcus said, handing her a crisp black uniform. "Tonight you'll shadow Peter to learn the ropes." Peter stepped forward with a friendly smile. "Just stick with me. I'll show you everything." As the meeting dispersed, Peter pulled Ariel aside. "First rule of survival here. Avoid table 7 on Fridays at all costs." Ariel raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Julian Vale," Peter said, lowering his voice. 32 years old, disgustingly rich, and treats everyone like dirt. He's ruined careers over a wrong wine pairing. Ariel listened as Peter described Julian's cold demeanor, his cutting remarks, how he'd publicly humiliated servers who didn't recognize him immediately. "The table is cursed," Peter concluded. "No one survives more than one night serving him." Instead of looking intimidated, something sparked in Ariel's eyes, a challenge accepted. "I've dealt with difficult customers before," she said with a shrug. Peter laughed. "Not like this, trust me." At exactly 7:28 that evening, the staff tensed as the front door opened. Julian Vale walked in wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than what most of the staff earned in 3 months. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes, cold blue, scanned the restaurant like he owned it. The hostess practically trembled as she greeted him. "Good evening, Mr. Vale. Your usual table is ready." Julian didn't respond. He merely followed her to table 7, already on his phone, deep in conversation about some business deal. "Peter," Marcus whispered urgently. "You're up." Peter paled. "But I thought, everyone else has taken a turn. It's your rotation." Ariel watched this exchange with interest. She saw the fear in Peter's eyes, the way his hands shook slightly. "I'll do it," she said suddenly. Both men turned to her in shock. "Absolutely not," Marcus said. "You just started. You don't know the menu, the wine list." "I'm a quick study," Ariel replied. "And if he's as particular as you say, wouldn't he prefer someone who hasn't already formed bad habits?" Before Marcus could protest further, Ariel straightened her uniform and walked directly to table 7. Julian was mid-phone call, typing something on his laptop. He didn't look up. "I'll have the salmon. No substitutions, no interruptions, and no incompetence. Understand?" he said coldly, still not making eye contact. Ariel stood there for a moment, taking in his dismissive tone, the way he didn't even acknowledge her as a person. "No, actually, I don't," she said clearly. There was a moment of charged silence. At nearby tables, conversations quieted. From across the room, Marcus looked like he might faint. Julian slowly looked up from his phone, confusion, and then shock crossing his face. No one spoke to him this way. Ever. "Excuse me," he said, his voice dangerously soft. Ariel didn't flinch. "You're used to yes men. I'm not one. My name is Ariel, and I'll be your server tonight. When you're ready to order with basic courtesy, I'll be happy to help." The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Even the soft violin music playing in the background felt suddenly muted. Julian stared at her, his blue eyes narrowing. For several long seconds, no one moved. Then something unexpected happened. The corner of Julian's mouth twitched. And then, remarkably, he laughed. It was short and surprised, as if the sound had escaped before he could stop it. "Well," he said, putting his phone down, "that's refreshing." He closed his laptop and actually looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time. "Ariel, was it? Bring me your best. I'm curious now." In the kitchen, chaos erupted as Ariel placed Julian's order. "He let you talk to him like that?" the sous chef asked in disbelief. "And he laughed?" added Peter. "Julian Vale doesn't laugh. Some people think he physically can't." Ariel shrugged. "Everyone's human, even rich jerks." Marcus pulled her aside, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "That was incredibly risky," he said. "But since he didn't fire you on the spot, maybe, just maybe you can handle him. Just be careful." Throughout the evening, Ariel served Julian with professional efficiency, but without the fearful deference he usually received. When he questioned the wine pairing, she defended the sommelier's choice. When he found the sauce too sweet, she offered an alternative without apology. And strangely, Julian seemed to enjoy it. He watched her with increasing interest, this woman who treated him like a regular person rather than a ticking bomb. As the restaurant began to empty, Julian remained at his table, sipping his after-dinner bourbon. When Ariel brought the check, he finally asked, "Where did you work before this?" "Joe's Diner on 43rd for breakfast shifts. The Capitol Grill for dinner. And weekend catering jobs when I could get them," she answered honestly. Julian raised an eyebrow. "Not exactly the resume for Luso. I'm a hard worker, and I don't scare easily." "I noticed," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "Why 3 jobs?" Ariel hesitated, then decided there was no point hiding it. "My sister's medical bills. She's in remission now, but cancer treatment isn't cheap, even with insurance." Something flickered across Julian's face, recognition, perhaps. For a brief moment, he looked almost human. "I see," he said quietly. He signed a credit card slip without looking at the total, then stood to leave. As he walked past her, he stopped. "I'll be back next Friday," he said. It sounded almost like a question. "Table 7 will be waiting," Ariel replied. After Julian left, the staff descended on Ariel in amazement. "You survived. He talked to you like, actually conversed." Marcus approached with a stunned expression. "In 5 years, I've never seen him speak more than 10 words to any server." Ariel glanced at the credit card slip, and her eyes widened. The tip was exactly 20%. Fair and appropriate, but not the guilt-inducing excess Julian usually left. "He respected you," Peter whispered in awe. "That's even rarer than his guilt money." Over the next few weeks, Julian continued to request Ariel as a server. Their interactions evolved into something resembling a ritual. He'd make some mildly demanding comment. She'd push back with calm confidence. He'd respond with what, for Julian, passed as humor. The staff watched in fascination as the most feared customer in the restaurant gradually transformed. He stopped taking calls during dinner. His laptop remained closed. Once, someone even saw him smile, not smirk but genuinely smile, at something Ariel said. One Friday evening, Julian arrived earlier than usual. The restaurant wasn't officially open yet, and Ariel was helping set up the dining room. "We don't open for another 30 minutes, she said, surprised to see him. "I know," Julian replied. He seemed different tonight, slightly less polished, almost nervous. "I have a business dinner later. I thought I'd come by for a drink first." Ariel led him to the bar, where he ordered bourbon. "So," he said after a moment, "tell me about your sister." Ariel looked surprised, but answered. "Maya. She's 24. Diagnosed with lymphoma 2 years ago. She fought like hell, and she's been in remission for 6 months. You two must be close. She's all the family I have left." Ariel said simply. Julian nodded, staring into his drink. I was disowned at 18, he said suddenly. My father gave me two choices: follow his career plan or get out. I chose option 2. Ariel hadn't expected this personal revelation. That must have been hard. I took out a loan, started small, and worked my way up, he continued, as if he needed to explain himself. Everything I have, I built. Nothing was given to me. Is that why you're so hard on people? Because no one cut you any slack? Julian looked startled by her directness, then thoughtful. Maybe, he admitted. Or maybe I'm just a jerk. Oh, you're definitely that too, Ariel said with a small smile. Julian laughed, really laughed, and the sound of it changed his entire face. He looked younger, lighter. You know, Ariel, you're the only person in Chicago who speaks to me like I'm just a regular person. That's because to me, you are, she replied. Your money doesn't impress me. Your power doesn't scare me. I've faced scarier things than an angry rich man with control issues. Instead of being offended, Julian looked at her with something like admiration. Would you have dinner with me sometime? He asked suddenly. Not here. Somewhere else. Not a customer. Ariel studied him for a long moment. Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Vale? Julian, he corrected. And yes, I believe I am. She should say no. This man represented everything she disliked: privilege, entitlement, the belief that money could buy anything, including people. And yet, in these brief conversations, she'd glimpsed something else beneath the cold exterior. Loneliness, a desperate need for authenticity, and perhaps the capacity to change. I don't date customers, she said finally. Julian's face fell slightly before his usual mask slipped back into place. Of course, I understand. But, Ariel continued, I get off at 10 o'clock. There's a little coffee shop around the corner that stays open late. If someone happened to be there, I might stop in for a cup before heading home. A slow smile spread across Julian's face. I might know the place. At Joe's Diner, Maya Benton wiped down the counter during the mid-afternoon lull. The bell above the door rang, and she looked up to see her sister walking in. Aren't you supposed to be getting ready for your fancy job? Maya asked, already pouring a cup of coffee for Ariel. I have time, Ariel said, sliding onto a stool. How's your day been? Same old, Maya replied, studying her sister's face. But you're glowing. What's going on? Ariel sipped her coffee, hesitating. Remember that difficult customer I told you about? Julien Valli. Maya's expression darkened. The rich jerk who terrorizes the staff? What about him? He's not exactly what I expected. Maya put down her towel. Ariel, please tell me you're not falling for a guy like that. I'm not falling for anyone, Ariel insisted. We just talked. He asked me out, actually, and you said no, right? When Ariel didn't immediately answer, Maya groaned. Ari, men like that don't fall in love. They collect trophies. It's just coffee, Maya. I am curious. Curious is how people get hurt, Maya warned. Men with money and power like him. They don't see women like us as equals. We're exotic experiences to them. Temporary adventures. Ariel wanted to argue, but knew her sister was coming from a place of love and protection. After all they'd been through together, Maya was understandably wary of anything that might hurt her sister. I'll be careful, Ariel promised. About my eyes wide open. Maya sighed. Just remember who you are. You're Ariel Benton. You didn't survive everything we've been through by being naive. I know exactly who I am, Ariel said, squeezing her sister's hand. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly why he's interested. At 10:15 that night, Ariel pushed open the door to Midnight Brew, the small coffee shop 3 blocks from Luso. Her feet ached from a long shift, and part of her wondered if she was making a huge mistake. The shop was nearly empty, and then she saw him, sitting at a corner table. Julian had changed out of his business suit into dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Without the power suit, he looked almost approachable. He stood when he saw her, an unexpectedly old-fashioned gesture. You came, he said, sounding genuinely pleased. I said I might, Ariel replied, slipping into the chair across from him. Julian had already ordered a pot of tea and 2 cups. I remembered you mentioned you prefer tea after work. Ariel was surprised he'd noticed such a small detail. As she poured herself a cup, Julian asked. So why Luso? With your people skills, you could work anywhere. The money's better, she said simply. And I'm saving for something important. Your sister's medical bills? Ariel shook her head. Those are finally under control. I'm saving to open my own place someday. Nothing fancy like Luso. Just good food, fair prices, and a place where everyone feels welcome. Julian's eyes lit up with interest. You want to be a restaurateur? Is that so surprising? Not at all, he said. You have the perfect temperament for it. You don't take nonsense from difficult customers, for one thing. They both smiled at that. As they talked, Ariel began to see different sides of Julian. He spoke about his early struggles, about sleeping on friends' couches and working 18-hour days to get his first venture off the ground. He talked about the loneliness of success, how people either wanted something from him or were too intimidated to be real. That's why you stood out, he admitted. You treated me like a person, not a wallet or a threat. Everyone deserves basic respect, Ariel said. Even difficult rich guys. Julian laughed. I've been called worse. As the coffee shop began to close, they reluctantly stood to leave. Can I call you? Julian asked as they stood outside on the sidewalk. Ariel hesitated, then handed him her phone. Put your number in. I'll call you. He raised an eyebrow, but did as she asked. I had a nice time tonight, Julian, she said. Surprisingly nice. High praise indeed, he replied with a small smile. They parted ways without a handshake or a kiss, just a lingering look that held possibility. As Ariel rode the bus home that night, she thought about Maya's warning. Men like that don't fall in love. They collect trophies. Was that what this was? Was she just a novelty to Julian Vale, the waitress who dared to stand up to him? Or was there something real happening between them? Only time would tell. And Ariel Benton had learned long ago that time revealed all truths, both beautiful and painful. What she didn't know was how quickly those truths would come to light, or how thoroughly they would test everything she thought she knew about Julian Vale and about herself. Over the next few weeks, Julian and Ariel's coffee meetings became a regular occurrence after her Friday night shifts. Each time, they stayed a little longer, talked a little deeper, and the space between them grew a little smaller. One night, as they walked from the coffee shop, Julian surprised her by taking her hand. Ariel looked down at their intertwined fingers but didn't pull away. Is this okay? He asked, suddenly uncertain. Yes, she said simply. It's okay. Back at Luso, the staff had noticed the change in Julian. He still sat at table 7 every Friday, but now he greeted the hostess by name. He made eye contact with the busboy. Once, he even complimented the chef directly, causing the poor man to nearly drop a tray of appetizers in shock. It's like he's been body snatched, Peter whispered to Ariel as they prepared table settings. What did you do to him? Ariel shrugged. I just treated him like a regular person. There's more to it than that, Peter insisted. He looks at you differently. Marcus, who had overheard, pulled Ariel aside later that evening. I don't mean to pry into your personal life, he began awkwardly, but are you and Mr. Vale involved? Ariel straightened her uniform. Would that be a problem? No, of course not. Marcus said quickly. It's just, be careful. Julian Vale moves in powerful circles. His friends are the elite of Chicago. I'd hate to see you get hurt. I appreciate the concern, Ariel said, but I can take care of myself. Marcus nodded, though his expression remained worried. You've been good for him, that's clear. I've never seen him so human. That Saturday, Julian surprised Ariel by picking her up in his sleek silver Audi. Where are we going? She asked as she slid into the passenger seat. I want to show you something, he said with a mysterious smile. They drove to a rundown neighborhood on the south side. Julian parked in front of an abandoned storefront with boarded-up windows and peeling paint. What is this place? Ariel asked as they got out of the car. Julian pulled out a key. It's currently nothing, but it could be something. He unlocked the door and let her inside. The space was empty and dusty, with old tile floors and exposed brick walls. Sunlight streamed in through the parts of the windows that weren't boarded up. I don't understand, Ariel said, looking around. You said you wanted to open your own restaurant someday, Julian explained. What do you think of this space? Ariel's eyes widened as she realized what he was suggesting. Julian, this is crazy. I'm years away from being able to afford my own place. What if you didn't have to wait? He asked. What if you had a partner? An investor? She turned to face him directly. You want to invest in a restaurant with me? You barely know me. I know enough, he said softly. I know you understand food and people in a way I never will. I know you have vision and integrity. And I know a good investment when I see one. Ariel walked around the space, tried to process his offer. Part of her was excited. This dusty old building could indeed become something beautiful. But another part was wary. Why would you do this? She asked finally. Julian stepped closer. Because I believe in you. And because... He hesitated. Being with you these past few weeks has made me happier than I've been in years. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. This wasn't the cold, calculating businessman who had terrorized Lusso's staff. This was just a man opening himself up to possibility. I can't accept this, Ariel said finally. Not yet. Not as a gift, or because we're whatever we are. If, and that's a big if, we ever did something like this together, it would have to be a real partnership. Equal say, my vision, your investment. Instead of being offended, Julian looked impressed. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I need time, she added. This is moving too fast. Julian nodded, respecting her boundaries. The property's not going anywhere. Just think about it. As they left the building, Julian locked the door and handed her the key. Hold on to this. For whenever you're ready. The gesture was both generous and presumptuous. Perfectly Julian. Ariel shook her head, but pocketed the key. You're impossible, you know that? Julian smiled. So I've been told. Usually right before someone walks away. There was vulnerability in those words that caught Ariel off guard. She reached for his hand. I'm still here, she said softly. At Joe's diner the next morning, Ariel found Maya working the Sunday breakfast rush. I'll be done in an hour, Maya called when she spotted her sister. Grab a seat at the counter. Ariel watched her sister efficiently manage the crowded diner, taking orders, making change, joking with regulars. Maya had always been the stronger one, even during her illness. While going through chemo, she'd still insisted on working when she could, refusing to let cancer define her. When the rush finally slowed, Maya poured 2 cups of coffee and joined Ariel at the counter. So, Maya said, how was your date with Mr. Moneybags? Ariel sighed. Can you at least try to use his name? Fine. How was your date with Julian? Ariel twisted her coffee cup. He showed me a building, a possible restaurant space. Maya's eyebrows shot up. A restaurant? Your restaurant? Maybe. Someday. He wants to invest. Maya's expression hardened. Invest in a restaurant. Or invest in you? That's not fair, Ariel protested. He respects what I want to do. After what? A month of knowing you. Ari, men like him don't just hand out buildings to women they respect professionally. He wants something. Maybe he just wants me, Ariel said quietly. Maya reached across the counter and took her sister's hand. That's what I'm afraid of. When men like Julian Vale want someone, it's not the same as when regular people fall in love. It's about possession, control. He's not like that, Ariel insisted. He's changing. People don't change, Maya said firmly. Not really. They just show you different masks until they get what they want. Ariel pulled her hand away, frustrated. You don't even know him. I know men like him, Maya countered. Men who think their money gives them power over everyone. I've served them my whole life too, remember? Ariel stood, grabbing her purse. I love you, Maya, but I need to figure this out for myself. Maya's expression softened. I just don't want to see you hurt. After everything we've been through. I know, Ariel cut in, but I'm a grown woman. I need to make my own choices, even my own mistakes. As Ariel left the diner, Maya called after her. Just be careful. Don't let him change who you are. The following Friday at Lusso, Ariel was surprised when Julian didn't take his usual table 7. Instead, he asked to speak with Marcus in private. After their meeting, Marcus approached Ariel with a bemused expression. Mr. Vale would like a tour of our kitchen, he said, sounding confused by the request. In all his years of dining at Lusso, Julian had never once expressed interest in the behind-the-scenes operations. The kitchen staff froze when Julian walked in, clearly expecting criticism. But instead, He asked thoughtful questions about their processes, complimented the organization, and even chatted with Luis, the dishwasher. When Luis mentioned he was working 2 jobs to put his daughter through community college, Julian listened attentively. Later, Ariel overheard him asking Marcus about giving Luis more hours and better pay. "He's clearly valuable," Julian said. "You should keep him happy." Marcus looked stunned, but nodded in agreement. After Julian left that night, the kitchen was buzzing with conversation. "Did you see that?" Chef Bernard asked Ariel. "Julian Vale, asking about our prep work, talking to the dishwasher like he was a person. What's gotten into him?" Ariel just smiled. Maybe he's finally seeing the whole picture. Later that week, Luis approached Ariel with tears in his eyes. "I don't know what you said to Mr. Vale," he began, "but he's set up a scholarship for my daughter. Full tuition for her nursing program. I don't have to work the second job anymore." Ariel was genuinely surprised. "I didn't say anything, Luis. That was all him." Luis shook his head in disbelief. "In all my years here, he never even looked at me before. Now this, it's a miracle." Word spread quickly through the restaurant. Julian Vale, the man everyone had feared, was becoming something unexpected, a benefactor. He donated to the staff emergency fund. He left generous but not excessive tips for everyone, not just Ariel. He remembered names. "It's because of you," Peter told Ariel one evening as they closed up. "You've changed him." But even as Julian showed his better side at Luso, whispers began in other quarters. One evening, Ariel overheard 2 well-dressed women in the ladies' room. "Did you hear about Julian Vale?" one asked. "Apparently he's dating a waitress." "No," the other gasped. "Not Julian. He usually goes for models or socialites." "Well, she must be special," the first woman said with a smirk. "Or special to put up with him." "Maybe it's a publicity stunt," suggested the second. "You know, to soften his image for that new venture. Or maybe she's just a phase. Men like Julian sometimes slum it for the thrill." They both laughed, then fell silent when Ariel emerged from the stall. Their faces registered embarrassment as they realized she had heard everything. Ariel washed her hands calmly, dried them, and walked out without a word. But the women's comments stayed with her, adding to the doubts Maya had already planted. Was she just a phase? A project? A way for Julian to prove he wasn't the cold-hearted businessman everyone thought him to be? A week later, Julian invited Ariel to dinner at his penthouse apartment. This was the first time she'd see where he lived, and she felt unexpectedly nervous as the elevator rose to the top floor. Julian's home was exactly what she'd expected. Sleek, modern, expensive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. But there were surprises too. Shelves filled with books that looked actually read, not just displayed. A kitchen with signs of use. No artwork that screamed, "I spent millions on this." "You cook?" Ariel asked, noticing a pot simmering on the stove. "I try," Julian admitted, "though nothing you'd want to serve in a restaurant." He pulled out a chair for her at a small table set for 2, already laid with bread and wine. "No staff tonight?" she asked. Looking around for the household help she'd assumed he would have. "Just us," he said. "I wanted it to be personal." Over a simple but tasty pasta dish, Julian seemed almost nervous, a state Ariel had never associated with him. "I've been thinking," he said finally, "about us, about the future." Ariel took a sip of wine, waiting. "I'm hosting a dinner party next week," he continued. "Important people, potential investors for a new tech venture. I'd like you to be there." "As your date?" Ariel asked. Julian hesitated. "Well, yes, but also, the restaurant staff I usually hire is unavailable. I thought perhaps you might help coordinate the service." Ariel put down her glass slowly. "You want me to serve at your dinner party?" "Not exactly serve," Julian clarified quickly. "More like oversee. You have an eye for these things. I trust your judgment." "Let me get this straight," Ariel said, her voice cooling. "You want me to be both your date and your staff coordinator?" Julian didn't seem to notice her change in tone. "You'd be doing me a huge favor, and it would be a great opportunity for you to meet some influential people in the restaurant world. I've invited several who might be interested in your concept." Ariel stood up, her appetite gone. "My concept?" "Right." Now Julian noticed her displeasure. "Did I say something wrong? Do you really not see it? She asked. How this looks? Your waitress girlfriend serving your rich friends? It's humiliating. Julian looked genuinely confused. That's not how I meant it at all. I thought you'd appreciate the chance to showcase your skills, to network, to impress your friends with how you've reformed the help. Ariel cut in. To show off your charitable project? Julian stood now, too frustrated. That's not fair. You know that's not how I see you. Doi. Ariel challenged. Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you want to parade me around. Look at Julian Vale's new toy. She even comes with serving skills. That's ridiculous, Julian snapped, his old coldness returning. I'm trying to help your career. I don't need your help, Ariel said firmly. I don't need your charity or your connections or your building. I was doing just fine before you came along. Fine. Julian repeated incredulously. Working 3 jobs just to stay afloat? That's your definition of fine. The moment the words left his mouth, Julian knew he'd made a terrible mistake. Ariel's expression hardened into something he'd never seen before. And there it is, she said quietly. The real Julian Vale. The one who thinks his money makes him superior. The one who sees my life as something sad and small that needs fixing. Ariel, I didn't mean... Yes, you did, she interrupted. You've been generous and kind these past weeks, and I really thought you were different. But Maya was right. Men like you don't change. You just get better at hiding who you really are. Julian reached for her arm. Please, let me explain. Ariel stepped back. I'm not your redemption project, Julian. I'm not your look. I'm evolved now prize. I'm a person who deserves respect, not pity. I respect you more than anyone, Julian insisted. That's why I want to give you opportunities. I don't want your opportunities, Ariel said. I want a partner who sees me as an equal, not a charity case. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. Julian followed, his face pale with the realization that he was losing her. Ariel, please. I'm sorry. I spoke without thinking. She turned at the door, her eyes filled with disappointment. That's just it, Julian. You did speak without thinking. And what came out was your truth. That's not my truth, he protested. I care about you. Save it, Ariel said, raising a hand to stop him. I quit. Julian froze. What? Luso. I quit. I'll find another job. Don't be hasty, Julian said. Your job has nothing to do with us. Ariel laughed bitterly. It has everything to do with us. How you think it looks to everyone there? The staff already thinks I'm sleeping my way to the top. Your friends think I'm your slumming phase. And now I know what you really think of me. That's not true, Julian said desperately. None of it is true. But Ariel was already walking out the door. As it closed behind her, Julian stood alone in his expensive apartment, surrounded by all his success and wealth. And suddenly none of it seemed to matter. The next morning, Ariel walked into Marcus's office at Luso and handed him her resignation letter. I'm sorry to do this without notice, she said. But I can't stay. Marcus sighed, not looking surprised. It's about Julian, isn't it? Ariel nodded. It's complicated. It always is with him, Marcus said, accepting the letter. For what it's worth, I've never seen him care about anyone the way he cares about you. That's the problem, Ariel replied. He doesn't know how to care without controlling. As she cleared out her small locker in the staff room, Peter found her. You're really leaving? He asked, looking dismayed. But you're the only one who can handle Table 7. Ariel smiled sadly. Table 7 will just have to learn to behave itself. Before leaving Luso for the last time, Ariel took one long look at the dining room, at the gleaming table settings and soft lighting. Despite everything, she had loved working here, had learned so much about fine dining and service. And despite everything, she had fallen for Julian Vale. Not his money or his power, but the man underneath who had shown her glimpses of vulnerability, of genuine caring, of potential. But potential wasn't enough. Not when he still saw her world as something lesser, something to be fixed with his wealth rather than respected for its own value. As Ariel walked out the front door of Luso, she felt both lighter and heavier. She had stood up for herself, had refused to be diminished. But she had also lost something, maybe someone she had come to care about deeply. The question now was What would Julian Vale do when faced with the one thing his money couldn't buy? And more importantly, what would Ariel Benton do with the broken pieces of her heart? 2 weeks after walking out of Luso, Ariel found herself wiping down tables at Brewster's, a small neighborhood cafe 10 blocks from her apartment. The pay was less than half what she'd made at Luso, but the atmosphere was relaxed, the customers friendly, and no one expected perfection. "You're overqualified," Ellen Brewster, the 60-something owner, had said when hiring her. "But I'm not stupid enough to turn down someone with your experience." On this rainy Tuesday afternoon, the cafe was nearly empty. Ariel refilled salt shakers and tried not to think about Julian Vale. She'd been mostly successful at pushing him from her mind during the day, but nights were harder. She would lie awake remembering his laugh, the real one, not the cold smirk he showed the world, and the way his eyes softened when he listened to her dreams. The bell above the door jingled, and Ariel looked up to see Maya enter, shaking raindrops from her umbrella. "Thought I'd check out the new workplace," Maya said, sliding onto a stool at the counter. Ariel poured her a cup of coffee. "What do you think?" Maya glanced around at the mismatched chairs, local artwork on the walls, and handwritten menu. "It's cozy. Suits you better than that stuffy place." Luso wasn't stuffy, Ariel defended automatically. It was elegant. Maya raised an eyebrow. "You miss it." "Parts of it," Ariel admitted. She didn't add that she missed Julian more. Maya sipped her coffee, studying her sister's face. "Have you heard from him?" Ariel shook her head. "Not a word." "Good," Maya said firmly. "Clean break." But something in her sister's tone made Ariel look closer. "What aren't you telling me?" Maya hesitated. "He came by the diner yesterday, looking for you." Ariel nearly dropped the mug she was drying. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you're better off without him," Maya said bluntly. "He may be rich and handsome, but he's still the kind of man who thinks people like us are beneath him." "What did he say?" Ariel pressed. Maya sighed. "He asked where you were working now. I didn't tell him. He looked terrible, if that makes you feel any better. Like he hasn't slept in days." Despite herself, Ariel felt a pang of concern. "Did he say anything else?" "Just that he needed to talk to you." "To explain." Maya reached across the counter and took her sister's hand. "Ari, don't let him pull you back in. Men like that don't change overnight." "Maybe not overnight," Ariel said quietly. "But people can change." "Some people," Maya conceded. "But why risk your heart finding out if he's one of them?" Across town in his penthouse office, Julian stared unseeing at the documents spread across his desk. His assistant had rescheduled 3 meetings today already because he couldn't focus. "Mr. Vale," his assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Daniels is here to see you." Julian pressed the button. "Send him in." Robert Daniels, Julian's oldest friend and business partner, walked in and immediately frowned. "You look like hell," Robert said, taking a seat across from Julian. "Thanks," Julian replied dryly. "Did you find her?" Robert sighed. "No, her sister wouldn't tell me anything either." "Julian, maybe this is for the best. She clearly wants space." Julian ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "I need to explain." "To apologize." "For what exactly?" Robert asked. "From what you've told me, you offered her an opportunity many people would kill for." Julian shook his head. "That's just it. I thought I was helping, but I was really just—" What did she call it? "Making her my redemption project." And she was right. "So you said something thoughtless," Robert shrugged. "It happens. Send flowers a nice gift." "This isn't about gifts," Julian interrupted sharply. "It's about respect. I didn't respect her life, her struggles. I saw them as problems I could fix with my money instead of experiences that made her who she is." Robert looked at his friend with surprise. In 15 years, he'd never heard Julian Vale talk this way about anyone. "You really care about this woman," Robert said slowly. "Not just as a novelty." Julian's eyes flashed with anger. "Is that what people are saying? That she's some kind of novelty to me?" Robert shifted uncomfortably. "There's been talk. You know how our circle is. A successful businessman dating a waitress, it raises eyebrows. And I played right into it," Julian said bitterly, "asking her to serve at my dinner party. God, I'm an idiot." "The dinner party," Robert remembered suddenly. It's tomorrow night. Are you canceling? Julian stared out the window at the Chicago skyline. No, but I'm changing the focus. The next evening, 20 of Chicago's wealthiest and most influential people gathered in Julian Vale's penthouse. They expected the usual, exquisite food, fine wine, and business talk. But when Julian stood to address them, the room fell silent with surprise. Thank you all for coming, Julian began. As some of you know, I've been working on a new investment opportunity. But it's not the tech venture you were expecting. He clicked a remote, and images appeared on the large screen behind him. Photographs of a rundown building transformed through digital rendering into a warm, inviting restaurant. This is the table, Julian continued. A new dining concept that breaks down the barriers between fine dining and accessibility, where exceptional food meets genuine community. As Julian outlined the business plan, his guests looked increasingly confused. This wasn't the high-profit, exclusive venture they'd anticipated. This was something else entirely, a restaurant with a sliding-scale payment model, apprenticeships for at-risk youth, and a chef's table where local community members would be invited weekly to dine alongside paying customers. The return on investment won't be as immediate as my usual projects, Julian concluded, but the long-term impact on our city will be substantial. After his presentation, Julian mingled with his guests, answering questions and accepting tentative pledges of support. But his mind wasn't on the potential investors. It was on the empty space beside him where Ariel should have been. Later, as the last guests were leaving, Robert pulled Julian aside. That was unexpected, Robert said. This whole concept, it's hers, isn't it? Your waitress. Ariel, Julian corrected. Her name is Ariel Benton. And yes, the vision is hers. I'm just providing the capital. And if she wants nothing to do with you or the project? Robert asked gently. Julian looked down at the business plan in his hands, the one he'd spent 2 weeks perfecting, based on all the dreams Ariel had shared during their late-night talks. Then I'll find another partner to run it, he said finally. The project goes forward either way. She was right about everything, about me, about what a restaurant should be. Whether she's in my life or not, I want to see her vision become reality. Robert clapped a hand on his friend's shoulder. You've got a band, my friend. Julian didn't deny it. I need to find her, Robert. I need to make this right. The following week, Ariel was surprised when Ellen asked her to stay after closing. I've got a proposition for you, Ellen said as they sat at one of the cafe tables. I'm thinking of expanding our dinner service. Nothing fancy, just simple, good food 3 nights a week. I need someone to manage it. Ariel looked up in surprise. Really? That's a big change. I'm not getting any younger, Ellen said pragmatically. And this place could do more. I've watched you these past weeks. You've got ideas, talent. The customers love you. I don't know what to say, Ariel said, genuinely touched. Thank you for the opportunity. Ellen waved away her thanks. Don't thank me yet. The pay won't be anywhere near what you're worth, at least not at first. But if we build the dinner service together, I'm offering you 10% of the profits. That's incredibly generous, Ariel said. It's smart business, Ellen corrected. I recognize talent when I see it. As they discussed details, Ariel felt a bittersweet pang. This was exactly the kind of opportunity she'd been working toward, a chance to create her own menu, to build something from the ground up. It wasn't her own restaurant, but it was a step in that direction. So why did her thoughts keep drifting to Julian and the building he'd shown her? You don't have to decide right now, Ellen said, noticing her hesitation. Take the weekend to think about it. That Friday night, Ariel worked late helping Ellen deep clean the kitchen in preparation for their potential dinner service. It was nearly midnight when they finished, and a steady rain had started falling. You sure you don't want to ride? Ellen asked as they locked up. It's just a few blocks, Ariel assured her. The rain's not too bad. But as soon as Ellen's car disappeared around the corner, the skies opened up. Ariel hurried back to the cafe's covered entryway to wait out the worst of the downpour. She was contemplating making a run for it when headlights cut through the rain. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, and Ariel's heart skipped as a familiar figure emerged. Julian stood there in the rain, no umbrella, no coat, just standing there getting soaked, looking at her with an expression of such vulnerability that Ariel felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crumble. "Your sister finally told me where to find you," he said, his voice barely audible over the rain. "I've been driving by every night, hoping to see you." Ariel stayed under the awning, arms crossed. "How did you convince Maya to tell you anything? She's not exactly your biggest fan." "I didn't," Julian admitted, "but I think I wore her down. I've been to the diner every day for a week, just asking." Today she finally said, "For God's sake, she works at Brewster's Cafe. Now leave me alone." Despite herself, Ariel smiled at the accurate impression of her sister's exasperation. Julian took a hesitant step closer, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. "Can we talk? Please." Ariel should say no. She should tell him it was too late, that too much had been revealed about who he really was. But standing there in the rain, all his usual polish washed away, he looked more real than she'd ever seen him. "You're getting soaked," she said finally, stepping aside to let him under the awning. Water dripped from his clothes as he stood before her, making no move to touch her, respecting the distance between them. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he said. "I need to apologize. You were right about everything." "Julian, please, let me finish," he said. "I spent my life believing that money could fix anything, that success meant never having to apologize. Then you came along and showed me what real dignity looks like. You never needed my money or my connections. You had something I've never had, genuine respect for people, regardless of their status." Ariel remained silent, listening. "I asked you to serve at my dinner party because I'm an idiot," Julian continued. "I didn't see how demeaning it was. I was so excited to show you off to my world that I didn't consider how it would feel from your perspective." "It wasn't just the dinner party," Ariel said quietly. "It was the way you talked about my life, like it was some sad little existence you needed to rescue me from." Julian winced. "I know, and that's why I'm here. Not to ask for another chance, I don't deserve one, but to give you something." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "This is for you. No strings attached." Ariel took it warily. Inside was a thick document with a title page that read, "The Table, Ownership Transfer." "What is this?" she asked, confused. "The building I showed you," Julian explained. "I've had it renovated according to the ideas you share with me. The restaurant is ready to open. Staff has been hired, licenses secured, everything." Ariel flipped through the papers in disbelief. "Julian, I can't accept this. It's too much." "You're not accepting anything from me," Julian clarified. "The restaurant is already established as its own entity. This paperwork transfers full ownership to you. No loans, no partnership with me, no hidden agenda. It's yours, free and clear." Ariel stared at him in shock. "Why would you do this?" "Because your vision deserves to exist in the world," Julian said simply. "And because I wanted to prove that I finally understand what you try to teach me. Your dream isn't a charity case or a tax write-off. It's a brilliant concept that will succeed on its own merits." Rain continued to pour around them as Ariel tried to process what Julian was offering. Not just a restaurant, but proof that he had truly heard her. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Julian replied. "You never have to see me again if you don't want to. The table is yours regardless of what happens between us." He turned to leave, stepping back into the rain. "Julian, wait," Ariel called. "Why call it the table?" He looked back with a sad smile. "Table 7, where it all began. The table no one wanted but you." As he walked toward his car, shoulders hunched against the rain, Ariel felt something breaking inside her. Not her heart this time, but the wall of pride she'd built around it. "Julian," she called out impulsively. He turned, rain streaming down his face. "Are you hungry?" she asked. Confusion crossed his features. "What?" "I asked if you're hungry," Ariel repeated, jingling the cafe, keys in her hand. "I can make us some coffee. Maybe something to eat. It's cold out there." Hope dawned slowly on Julian's face. "I'm starving, actually." Ariel unlocked the cafe door and held it open. "Then come in. Let's talk." Inside Brewster's, Ariel moved behind the counter while Julian sat on a stool, dripping water onto the floor. "I'll get you a towel," she said, disappearing into the back room. When she returned, Julian was examining the cafe with genuine interest. "I like this place," he said, accepting the towel. "It has character. Ellen, the owner, offered me a position managing a new dinner service," Ariel said as she prepared coffee. 10% of the profits." Julian nodded. "You should take it." Ariel raised an eyebrow. "Even though you just handed me a whole restaurant." "The table will take time to establish," Julian said practically. "This is a good opportunity in the meantime, and valuable experience." As the coffee brewed, Ariel studied Julian. He looked different, humbled, certainly, but also somehow more at peace. "Why aren't you pushing me?" she asked suddenly. "The old Julian will be telling me to forget this little cafe and focus on the bigger opportunity." Julian dried his hair with the towel. The old Julian was an arrogant ass who thought he knew better than everyone else. The new Julian is trying to listen more and dictate less. Ariel set a steaming mug in front of him. "And how's that working out for you?" "Honestly, it's terrifying," Julian admitted with a small laugh. "But also freeing somehow." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, sipping their coffee. "I want to see Maya," Julian said finally. "Not just to find you. To apologize to her, too." Ariel nearly choked on her coffee. "You what?" "She didn't make it easy," Julian said ruefully. "Call me every name in the book. But I deserved it." "What exactly did you apologize for?" Ariel asked, curious. "For not respecting her place in your life. For not understanding what you two have been through together." Julian met her eyes directly. "She told me about your parents. About how she practically raised you after they died. About her cancer diagnosis and how you dropped everything to take care of her." Ariel was surprised. Maya rarely shared their family history with anyone. "She must have really wanted to put you in your place," Ariel said. "She did," Julian agreed. "And it worked. I thought I knew hardship because I was cut off at 18 with nothing but alone. But I had opportunities, connections, privileges I didn't even recognize as privileges. You and Maya survived things I can't imagine, without any safety net. And instead of respecting that strength, I saw it as a deficiency I could fix with money." Ariel was touched by his self-awareness. "So what happens now?" she asked softly. Julian set down his mug. "That's entirely up to you. The table is yours whether we have a future together or not. I meant what I said, no strings attached." "And if I want strings?" Ariel asked, surprising herself with the boldness of the question. Julian looked up, hope flaring in his eyes. "What kind of strings did you have in mind?" Ariel moved around the counter to stand before him. "The kind where you help me make the table everything it could be. The kind where we build something together as true partners." "I'd like that," Julian said softly. "More than anything." "It won't be easy," Ariel warned. "You're used to control. I'm used to independence. We'll clash. Probably daily," Julian agreed with a smile. "And I'm still taking Ellen's offer," Ariel added. "I want to earn my success, step by step." "I wouldn't expect anything less," Julian said. Rain continued to pour outside, drumming on the cafe roof. Inside, the space between them had grown warm with possibility. "There's something I wanted to do since the first night you stood up to me at Luso," Julian said, his voice low. "What's that?" Ariel asked. "This," he whispered, and leaned forward to kiss her. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with weeks of longing. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "Worth the wait?" Ariel asked with a small smile. Julian brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Every second." As they sat together in the empty cafe, the rain slowly tapered off. Dawn was still hours away, but something new had already begun. A partnership founded not on charity or rescue, but on mutual respect and understanding. "I should get you home," Julian said eventually. "It's late." Ariel nodded, gathering her things. As they stepped outside, Julian took her hand, not possessively, but tentatively, like a question. Ariel interlaced her fingers with his. An answer. They walked to his car together, neither rushing nor hesitating, just moving forward, step by step, into whatever future they would build. But as Julian opened the car door for her, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "Robert?" "It's 1 a.m., he answered. Ariel watched as Julian's expression changed from confusion to shock. When? How bad? He asked urgently. Yes, I'll be right there. He hung up, his face pale. What is it? Ariel asked, alarmed. The building, Julian said. The table. There's been a fire. The drive to the south side took less than 20 minutes at that hour, but to Ariel, it felt like an eternity. Julian drove with tense concentration, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other holding his phone as he made call after call. As they turned onto the street, Ariel's heart sank. Fire trucks lined the block, their red lights painting the night in pulses of crimson. Smoke billowed from the building, and firefighters were still dousing hot spots with hoses. Julian parked hastily, and they rushed toward the scene. Robert, Julian's business partner, was already there, talking with a fire marshal. When he saw them approach, he hurried over. It started in the kitchen, Robert explained grimly. Electrical fire, they think, spread quickly through the back half of the building. Ariel stared at the charred structure in shock. Just minutes ago, she had been holding paperwork that promised her ownership of this place, her dream. Now it was a smoking ruin. How bad is it? Julian asked, his voice tight. Robert ran a hand through his hair. Bad. The kitchen's destroyed. Smoke and water damage throughout. The structural integrity might be compromised. Julian nodded, his face a mask of control. But Ariel saw the muscle in his jaw twitch, the subtle sign of the emotion he was holding back. Insurance? Julian asked. Full coverage, Robert confirmed. But this will set the timeline back months, at minimum. Julian turned to Ariel, concern etched on his face. I'm so sorry. Ariel couldn't speak. She just stared at the building, watching as firefighters moved in and out, the smell of smoke and ash heavy in the air. I know this is a shock, Julian continued, mistaking her silence for despair. But we'll rebuild. I promise you, this isn't the end. Ariel finally looked at him, really looked at him. His hair was still damp from the rain, his expensive clothes rumpled. He'd been through an emotional ringer tonight, confessing his feelings, apologizing, offering her everything she'd dreamed of, and now this. Yet there he stood, already planning to rebuild, already promising her that her dream wasn't dead. And he hadn't said, I'll rebuild. He'd said, we'll rebuild. Something shifted inside Ariel in that moment. It's just a building, she said finally. Julian and Robert both stared at her in surprise. What matters is that no one was hurt, Ariel continued. Buildings can be rebuilt. Dreams can be adjusted. Julian studied her face. You're taking this remarkably well. Ariel glanced back at the damaged restaurant, then to Julian. Maybe because I'm starting to understand what really matters. This, she gestured to the building, was never really about the restaurant itself. It was about creating something meaningful, about proving I could succeed on my own terms. She took Julian's hand, feeling its warmth against the cold night air. And it was about you proving something too, she added softly, that you could support my dream without controlling it. Julian squeezed her hand, and I still will, however long it takes. Robert cleared his throat awkwardly. I should go talk to the insurance adjuster. They'll need signatures. As Robert walked away, Julian and Ariel stood hand in hand, watching as firefighters continued to work on the building. So what now? Julian asked. Ariel took a deep breath. Now we start over. Together. The next morning, Ariel and Maya sat at their tiny kitchen table, mugs of coffee between them. Let me get this straight, Maya said after Ariel had explained everything. He renovated an entire building based on your ideas, was going to give it to you free and clear, and then it burned down before you could even see it? Ariel nodded. That's about it. And now you two are together, Ariel confirmed. For real this time. Maya leaned back in her chair, looking skeptical. One grand gesture doesn't change who he is, Ari. It wasn't the gesture, Ariel said. It was what happened after. When we saw the building burning, he didn't get angry or blame anyone. He just accepted it and immediately started thinking about how to fix it. For me, not for himself. Still, Maya said cautiously, people don't change overnight. It wasn't overnight, Ariel pointed out. It's been months of him trying, learning, listening. The Julian I met at Luso would have fired anyone who looked at him wrong. This Julian donated to the staff emergency fund. Set up a scholarship for Luis's daughter. Maya sipped her coffee, considering. I admit, when he came to the diner looking for you, he was different. Humble, maybe. He told me he apologized to you, Ariel said. Maya rolled her eyes, but there was a hint of a smile. He was very dramatic about it. Got down on one knee, like he was proposing, right in the middle of the lunch rush. Apologized for failing to recognize the strength and dignity of the Benton sisters. He didn't. Ariel laughed, picturing the scene. Oh, he did, Maya confirmed. I nearly died of embarrassment, but it was kind of sweet in a weird way. He's trying, I'll give him that. Ariel reached across the table and took her sister's hand. I need you to be okay with this, Maya. You're my family. Maya's expression softened. You really care about him, don't you? Ariel nodded. I do. And I think he might be good for me. Not because of his money or what he can give me, but because he challenges me. Makes me see things differently. And you definitely do the same for him, Maya admitted. Fine, I'll give him a chance. But if he hurts you again, you'll make him regret it, Ariel finished with a smile. I know. A week later, Julian picked Ariel up for what he called an important meeting. They drove to the south side, but instead of turning toward the damaged restaurant site, Julian continued a few blocks further. Where are we going? Ariel asked. You'll see, Julian replied with a mysterious smile. He pulled up in front of another building, older than the table, but larger, with a classic storefront and corner location. A for lease sign hung in the window. What's this? Ariel asked as they got out of the car. Plan B, Julian said, unlocking the door. The insurance money for the table will take time, and the rebuilding even longer. But this place is available now. He let her inside. The space was dusty and empty, but Ariel immediately saw its potential. High ceilings, exposed brick walls, large windows that would let in plenty of natural light. It's beautiful, she murmured, walking through the space. But can we afford to do both? Rebuild the table and start something here? Julian smiled at her use of we. Actually, I had a different idea, he said. What if, instead of rebuilding the table exactly as it was, we merged the concepts? This location is better, corner spot, more foot traffic, closer to the L. And it's bigger, which means more room for community events. Ariel walked the perimeter, mind already racing with possibilities. We could have an open kitchen, she said, pointing, and a community table there by the windows. Exactly, Julian agreed, excitement building in his voice. And we'd still call it the table, of course. The philosophy remains the same, breaking down barriers between fine dining and accessibility. Ariel turned to him, eyes bright with vision. A place where everyone is welcome. That's the idea, Julian said. But there's one more thing. He reached into his jacket and pulled out another set of papers. The ownership structure. Ariel took the document, scanning the first page. Her name was listed as majority owner at 51%, with Julian as minority partner at 49%. You're still giving me control, she said, looking up at him. It's your vision, Julian said simply. But this time, I want to be your partner in more than name. I want to build this with you if you'll have me. Ariel studied the papers, then set them aside on a dusty counter. She stepped closer to Julian, looking up into his eyes. Partners, she said, extending her hand formally. Equal in everything that matters. Julian took her hand, but instead of shaking it, he pulled her gently into his arms. Equal in everything, he agreed before kissing her. Over the next 3 months, the old building transformed. Walls came down, new equipment was installed, and the table began to take shape. Julian provided the capital, but it was Ariel's vision that guided every decision. True to her word, she also helped Ellen launch Brewster's dinner service, working evenings until the table was ready to open. It was exhausting, but Ariel had never felt more fulfilled. Julian, too, was changing. He still ran his venture capital firm, but he'd started a new division focused on community businesses, small loans to entrepreneurs from underserved neighborhoods. He consulted Ariel on every application, valuing her insight into what made a neighborhood business successful. One evening, as they reviewed kitchen equipment orders in Julian's penthouse, Ariel noticed him watching her instead of the spreadsheets. What? She asked, self-conscious. Nothing, Julian said with a small smile. Just thinking about how much has changed since you first stood up to me at table 7. Ariel set down her pen. Having second thoughts? About you? Never. Julian moved to sit beside her on the couch. About myself? Constantly. I still catch myself slipping into old patterns, thinking I know best, trying to control outcomes. You're doing better, Ariel assured him. Just this morning, when the contractor suggested changing the flooring, you actually asked my opinion instead of making an executive decision. Julian laughed. Baby steps. Ariel leaned against him, comfortable in a way she never would have imagined possible with Julian Vale just months ago. It's more than baby steps, she said seriously. You've changed, Julian. Not completely. I wouldn't want that. I fell for the ambitious, brilliant businessman too. But now there's balance. Julian wrapped an arm around her shoulders. That's all you're doing. No, you did the work. I just showed you the door. 2 weeks before the table's grand opening, Ariel invited Maya for a private tour. The restaurant was nearly finished. Tables in place, kitchen equipment installed, walls painted in warm earth tones. Wow, Maya said as Ariel showed her around. This is really happening. Ariel couldn't keep the pride from her voice as she pointed out features. The open kitchen where customers could watch their food being prepared, the community table where strangers would be encouraged to sit together, the wall of local artwork that would rotate monthly to showcase neighborhood talent. And this, Ariel said, leading Maya to a small corner, is a tribute to where it all began. On the wall hung a framed photograph of Lusso's Table 7, empty and elegant. The table no one wanted, Maya read from the small plaque beneath the photo. Except me, Ariel added softly. Maya studied her sister's face. You're really happy, aren't you? I am, Ariel confirmed. Happier than I've ever been. And Julian? He's treating you well. Ariel smiled. Better than well. He listens. He supports. He challenges me to be better, and I do the same for him. Maya nodded slowly. I have to admit, I was wrong about him. When I see you two together now, it's different. You're not his project. You're his partner. That means a lot, coming from you, Ariel said, hugging her sister. Maya hugged her back tightly. Mom and Dad would be so proud of you, Ari. Ariel blinked back sudden tears. Of both of us. We survived, Maya. Everything life threw at us, we got through it together. And now you've got someone else in your corner too, Maya said, wiping her own eyes. Just promise me one thing. Anything. When this place is successful, and it will be, don't let him talk you into expanding too quickly. Make him prove he can be a good partner for the long haul. Ariel laughed. Trust me, I'm still keeping him on his toes. On opening night, the table was packed. Local press, food critics, neighborhood residents, and Chicago's elite all mingled together, exactly as Ariel had envisioned. In the kitchen, she moved confidently among the staff, tasting sauces, adjusting presentations, ensuring everything was perfect. She'd insisted on wearing a chef's coat rather than a fancy dress, wanting to be part of the working team, not just an owner. Julian, meanwhile, worked the dining room in his element, charming investors, introducing community members to his business associates, building the bridges Ariel had dreamed of. At 9 p.m., Julian clinked a glass for attention. The room quieted as he moved to stand in the center. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began. The table represents something new for Chicago, a place where everyone belongs, regardless of background or budget. He gestured toward the kitchen. This vision belongs to one person, Ariel Benton. Without her courage, her integrity, and her willingness to stand up to a difficult customer, light laughter rippled through the crowd. None of this would exist. Ariel emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, surprised by the sudden attention. Ariel didn't just create a restaurant, Julian continued, his eyes finding hers across the room. She created a better version of me. Someone who finally understands that true worth isn't measured in dollars, but in dignity. He raised his glass. To Ariel and to the table. May they both continue to change lives for the better. The crowd applauded warmly as Ariel made her way to Julian's side, slightly embarrassed but deeply moved by his words. You didn't tell me you were making a speech, she whispered. Spontaneous, he replied with a smile. Was it too much? It was perfect, she said. But now it's my turn. Ariel took the glass from Julian's hand and addressed the crowd. The table isn't just my vision, she said clearly. It's a partnership between Julian and me, between our staff and our customers, between fine dining and community values. She looked up at Julian, her eyes filled with all the love she hadn't yet put into words. Sometimes the most unexpected partnerships turn out to be the most successful, she continued. A few months ago, I was a waitress who refused to be intimidated by a difficult customer. Today, I'm a restaurant owner standing beside a man who had the courage to change, to listen, and to put someone else's dream before his own ego. She raised a glass. To Julian Vale, the partner I never knew I needed, and now can't imagine being without. The crowd applauded again, but Julian barely noticed. He was looking at Ariel with such tenderness that the rest of the room seemed to fade away. I love you, he said quietly, for her ears alone. Ariel smiled, standing on tiptoe to kiss him briefly. I know. I love you too. The evening continued in a blur of success. Dishes praised, connections made, reservations booked weeks in advance. By midnight, only a few guests remained, including Maya, who had come for the late seating after finishing her shift at the diner. She sat at the bar nursing a glass of wine, watching her sister move through the restaurant with confidence and joy. Julian slid onto the stool beside her. Verdict, he asked. Maya studied him for a moment. She's happy, really happy. That's all that matters to me. To me too, Julian said sincerely. I still don't understand what you see in her, Maya said, but without the edge her words once would have carried. Don't get me wrong, Ariel is amazing, but she's not from your world. Julian smiled. That's exactly why I love her. My world was cold, calculated, empty. Ariel showed me a different way to live, with compassion, integrity, purpose. Just don't hurt her, Maya said, her protectiveness still evident. She's been through enough. I won't, Julian promised. In fact, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. Maya's eyes widened. You're going to propose? Julian nodded. Not tonight. This is her night professionally. But soon. To his surprise, Maya laughed. You've learned something after all. The old Julian would have made a big spectacle of proposing on opening night, stealing her professional thunder. Julian chuckled. The old Julian was an idiot. No argument there, Maya agreed, but with a smile that held new warmth. She'll say yes, you know. I hope so, Julian said, tucking the ring away, because I can't imagine my life without her. A year later, the table had become one of Chicago's most successful restaurants, not just financially, but in terms of impact. The sliding scale payment model allowed people from all walks of life to experience fine dining. The apprenticeship program had graduated its first class of at-risk youth, all of whom had found jobs in Chicago's top restaurants. Every Friday night, Julian and Ariel Vale hosted a special dinner. One table, always marked with a small 7, was reserved for community members nominated by their neighbors for acts of kindness or courage. These guests ate for free, served by Julian and Ariel themselves. After closing on this particular Friday, Julian and Ariel sat at table 7, sharing a quiet glass of wine after the last guest had left. Happy anniversary, Julian said, raising his glass. Ariel smiled, the simple gold band on her finger catching the light. 1 year since opening night. Hard to believe how much has changed. 1 year, 3 months, and 2 weeks since you first stood up to me at Luso, Julian added with precision. But who's counting? Ariel laughed. You apparently. Julian reached across the table and took her hand. Best day of my life, even if I didn't know it then. Mine too, Ariel admitted. Though I was pretty sure you were going to fire me on the spot. I considered it, Julian said with a grin. For about half a second. Then you looked at me with those fearless eyes, and I was done for. We've come a long way from table 7, Ariel said, glancing around at the restaurant they'd built together. Julian squeezed her hand. And we're just getting started. Outside, the Chicago night glittered with lights, and possibility. Inside the table, a venture capitalist and a former waitress sat hand in hand, equal partners in business and in life, proof that sometimes the tables we avoid most turn out to be exactly where we belong. The end.